Elections postponement. Independent petroleum marketers reduce pump price. Mixed feelings trail INEC's postponement of Saturday's general elections. Currency in circulation rises to 2.329 trillion naira, and oil prices rise on OPEC's cut and Saudi Arabia shut down. This is Business Express reaching you on the network service of the NTA. I am Muplang Dakok. We move straight to our discussion for the day, which is the economics of elections postponement. It is hinged on the nation's elections scheduled to take place last Saturday, but did not hold due to what the INEC described as logistics and weather problems.
No festivities, movement was minimal, weak sales for those who eventually opened up shop, and no parties. This means financial activities were at their lowest ebb with underlying cost implications.
Why is it that at the early hour of today, I heard that the election was cancelled when I have prepared my mind to go and vote of my choice?
Many people travel to their home. Some people postpone their burial or wedding arrangements.
We are expecting people to come back so that we're getting more passengers. So the way it will affect our business, people will spend more at home before coming back.
We Nigerians should listen and be patient. Irrespective of it, this is just 1 week they gave to us. We should wait the 23rd of this month, then everything, the needful will be done.
Since the calendar for the elections became public, formal business owners planned the day in line with the exercise even before the police announced a restriction in movement. Also, the airspace and borders were shut, with domestic and foreign airlines not selling tickets for the day, and motor parks were also at their very lows. Schools also scheduled midterm breaks to coincide with the election and are now faced with more days of closure. Experts have given varying amounts as cost of money lost during the one-day shutdown. Meanwhile, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has directed its members to reduce the cost of PMS to 140 naira at their filling stations to mitigate the effect of the election losses incurred by Nigerians. This was contained in a statement signed by the national president of the association, Chinedu Okoronkwo, who said the marketers are expected to comply with the directive immediately.
And on that note, we begin our discussion for today, and Basil Udo joins us here. He is a business editor with Premium Times. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. At our Kaduna Network Center is Professor Seth Akutsun of Nasarawa State University, KEFI. Hello, Prof. So can you give us an insight into the magnitude of losses incurred by Nigeria last Saturday?
Thank you very much. Well, it's very challenging times for the country, but I think we can look forward to better times ahead. The losses incurred in terms of cost, we could look at direct cost and also indirect cost. We could also look at psychological costs, and we could look at social costs. We could look at the economic costs, and we could also look at political costs. Now, if we put the quantum of these costs together, you discover that it's enormous. Just as in your preface, before the main news, you look at the velocity or the quantum of money in circulation at over 2 trillion. And not only that, you look at the area of social costs in terms of education, in terms of people who will be further impoverished because they live on a daily basis at less than $2 per day. And also, you look at the psychological costs in terms of people being psychologically affected in a way. And then you look at the integrity of INEC and the costs that they are going to incur. Not only that, you also look at the financial costs incurred both in the money market and in the capital market. So if you aggregate all those costs together, you find out that we may, in terms of dollar rate, we will be losing between $5 to $10 billion during this period of losses that this country has incurred. And don't forget, this cost also has impact on the international community, especially the amount of money outlay expended in preparation, investing in this particular day of election on the 16th. So the cost indeed is quite enormous, and it will take some time for us to recover from it.
Still with you, what sector of the economy would you say was worst hit?
It's more or less like a near total shutdown of the economy, and virtually all sectors are affected. And for instance, if you look at the capital market that is very sensitive to this kind of shocks, it will be affected. And when you start losing in the capital market, you know that it will be in billions of naira. Not only that, you find out that the informal sector, where people sell items on a daily basis and live on a daily basis, hand to mouth and all that, that sector is adversely affected. Not only that, you have the polity. Generally, there is a kind of apprehension, there is tension in the polity. So you find out that these areas are also affected. And the economy itself. We've been trying to grow our GDP. And if you have this kind of challenge, and then if you look at the projection of the growth of GDP, how do you cover up? Because this kind of problem may linger for some time for people to recover from it so that the economy can pick up and begin to grow to the level that is desirable. And so,
thank you very much, Prof. Mr. Udo, can you comment on the sector that you think was worst hit?
Yeah, before I get to the sector that was worst hit, let me say that because there are a lot of other people that say that there was not so much loss as people claim. Okay. Because the election that was postponed on Saturday was scheduled a long time ago. So there is nobody that was involved in any business that would have scheduled any form of business on that day. Maybe you are anticipating that maybe on the 23rd, because of the businesses that were supposed to have taken place last Saturday that did not take place, that had been moved to 23rd. It means those people that would have done something on that 23rd would have rescheduled it too.
What about those who made, for instance, Zobo, Puff Puff, and those small things? Those were ready things, for the election.
Those were things that you still have the opportunity of selling it for others that want to consume them. Now, okay. Some people talk about people that had weddings on that day. Nobody would have scheduled a wedding on a day that was already accepted, fixed nationally as a date for election. So if you are talking about the wedding on 23rd that would now be moved, then I don't think there's anything, because the wedding was not already scheduled, or if you pay the cash, it's only for you to give the inflation again.
Let's come to the sector that was worst hit.
Now, the sector that I think was worst hit there would be maybe the transport sector.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people travel across the country for one reason or the other. Airlines are saying that they lose close to $300 million or million naira for that day. But it's all anticipatory thing, because there is no one of them that said that they booked a flight to travel on that day. So if they didn't book a flight to travel, it means on that day, having known that the election was scheduled on that day, they wouldn't have operated. So they didn't suffer any loss.
Okay. So logistics seems to be a problem for INEC over time when it comes to elections. How would you rate that sector, talking about logistics?
You see, the thing is that I think the problem that we had that Saturday was a question of poor planning. Because if you are planning, once in a while, as you reach one milestone or the other, you have to review what you have achieved to be able to move forward. So if INEC did not review at every turn to ensure that the program that they have lined out for the election has been achieved, there is no way that anybody would tell me that they wouldn't have known days before Saturday that that kind of problem would arise. Even though yesterday one of the resident electoral commissioners was talking about the fact that the politicians caused the issue by not finishing the things that they needed to do on time for them to finish their own side of the preparations. I agree with them, because sometimes Nigerians wait to the last minute before they do what they have to do. Even this issue of collecting your PVC, a lot of people don't collect until the very last day, even when they had a long time. So, I want to say that maybe it was poor planning that caused the problem. I believe they must have learned a lesson, and it will be better when we get to 23.
All right, thank you, Mr. Udo. Prof, in Kaduna, can you comment on the seemingly persistent logistics issue for INEC?
Let me say that when it comes to issue of logistics, it's quite ridiculous to begin to bring that to the fore at the dying minute or at the dying hours of the election. The truth is that INEC has to involve a lot of collaborating with those in the logistics sector. We have a body of those who are logistic practitioners in the country that need to be engaged and then plan very well so that every loophole, every scenario would have been envisaged. As it is, if they talk about logistics after about 4 years, I don't know how they are going to cope with the logistic in the next 5 days that they want to, execute the election. So that news has to be tightened very, very well, and then to also get involved with those who are professionals in the logistic field so that they can help them and address those issues. But to bring logistic after 4 years of planning is quite ridiculous. I don't think that we should bring that, to the fore. But if that is indeed the challenge, they should rally around all those logistic practitioners so that they come to the fore to find out how the game of logistics will be played from one point to the other, how the supply chain management will be done appropriately so that we don't find ourselves in this kind of situation again.
Okay, thank you, Prof. We'll hold you there and join Mr. Udo here with me in the studio. So, Mr. Udo, how long do you think the impact of this election postponement will be felt on the economy? Is it going to be for the rest of the month or even for the first quarter of this year?
You see, the only impact that I see there is that, like in my medium, as far back as Tuesday, we had started sending reporters all over the country that will monitor the elections. Okay. And most of them had arrived at their destinations by Thursday, checked into their hotels, started filing reports, preliminary reports of their environment. Now, maybe the loss that we may have suffered there will be the money that we made for logistics for them to be there. I believe in this instance, the loss would have petered out by now, okay. But I believe there is no loss that we can suffer in a country that will be too much for a credible election. So if INEC is telling us that, well, we have to make that sacrifice for this nation to have a credible election, I think it's nothing too much for us to be able to stand by. But I want to believe that they would have learned enough lessons for the future, that if you are planning, you plan, you review your plans at intermittent points and ensure that you have achieved what you have to achieve, the goals that you have set before you move on. It's not something that at the very last minute you just cancel and put everybody in this like kind of logjam.
Okay, so the stock market staggered at the opening of markets today. So do you think it's because investors reacted to the postponement of the elections?
Well, I don't know whether even if the election would have held, the stock market would naturally react. Stock market is very, what they say is like a shy woman. So every little thing that happens in the economy or any part of the society affects the stock market. So one way or the other, it has a way of impacting. And I believe that too, with the few days that we have, it will begin to pick up again.
Okay, so let's join Prof in Kaduna. Prof, do you see the impact on Nigeria, the postponement of the election? Do you see it affecting economies outside the country?
Well, definitely. You find out that businesses have to put on hold, especially international engagement. And as a result, we are surrounded by small economics around us, like Benin, Chad, Niger, and that depend heavily on the flow of business traffic. And so when you have this kind of situation of uncertainty that the matter, that we know that, of course, by Saturday, we'll be having the election. But even at that Saturday, you find out that people are not too sure. They are doing what we normally refer to say, don't look to see what will happen. So when there are distortions in proper planning, it affects people, not even in the short time, but in the long time. The next election, maybe the next 4 years or any time, they begin to wonder, will it be postponed again? And they begin to reserve a kind of business outreach that they want to embark upon because of the air of uncertainty that has been now and even in the past. So we may find ourselves in this situation for some time. And of course, for the capital market, you have to know that we find ourselves in a period of uncertainty. So people will withhold any action, and you begin to see the bearish outcome in the capital market. So these are the situations that are going to invest in the immediate term, and if care is not taken, even in the medium term. And so these are the challenges that are going to face us with time.
What would you say are the likely things that will happen? Peradventure, the elections don't hold next week Saturday, or this week Saturday rather.
Thank you very much. You can see the conjecture now. And these are the kind of things that impact on the capital market. Now, nobody is sure, except perhaps INEC themselves. Everybody is waiting that if for 4 years we could not achieve this, could we be able to achieve it? But let's be optimistic. Let's be hopeful that on the day that things will work out. But in the event, God forbid that things do not work out, I tell you that we're going to face a lot of losses. And let me confess that even the premium times are already talking about the losses. We are talking about the losses we incur as a result of the postponement, not what will happen. If the election has held, well, fine. Like somebody like me, I flew in from New York. On Friday, I arrived in the night because of the election. Just for me to come out on Saturday just to learn that the election is not holding. So I cut off whatever activities I was doing there, and then I came back. So everybody, one way or the other, is affected. So, and I think that we should rally down and come out and ensure that INEC do not face the same challenge that they are talking about for whatever reason.
Much, Prof. So, Mr. Udo, what's your take on that?
Well, like the Prof has said, we need to be very optimistic. Like I said earlier, no sacrifice is too much for us to put together to ensure that we have a very credible election. So everything that we need to do as a people to support INEC to come up with a credible election, we will be there to stand by them. But God forbid, nothing like that would happen.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've been speaking with Professor Seth Akutson of Nasarawa State University. He joined us from Kaduna. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right. And Mr. Basi Udo is here with us in the studio. Thank you very much for coming. He is a business editor with Premium Times.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the build-up to the election reflected positively on the Nigerian stock markets as the all-share index last week rose by 3.67%, while investors gained more than 400 billion naira. Bosede Abel is our guide.
The Nigerian equities market defies political intrigues as indices surged by 3.76%. The stock market report for February 15, 2019 indicates that a total turnover of 2.8 billion shares worth 28.1 billion naira in 28,739 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange. The NSE all-share index appreciated by 3.76% to close the week at 32,715.20, while the market capitalization stood at 12.2 trillion naira. All other indices finished higher. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 2.2 billion shares valued at 20.1 billion naira traded in 17,838 deals. The conglomerate industry followed with 292.1 million shares worth 525.3 million naira in 1,948 deals. The third place was consumer goods industry with a turnover of 116.8 million shares worth 2.5 million naira in 4,114 deals. Trading in the top three equities, Diamond Bank PLC, Access Bank PLC and Transnational Corporation of Nigeria PLC accounted for 1.1 billion shares worth 3.7 billion naira in 4,179 deals. Also traded last week were a total of 1.2 million units of exchange-traded products ETPs valued at 9.7 million naira executed in 7 deals. 60 equities appreciated in price during the week, 21 equities depreciated, while 87 equities remained unchanged.
Meanwhile, closing figures from the Nigerian Stock Exchange this Monday shows that the market was hit by the election's postponement as the equities market opened the week depreciating by 1.61% to close the all-share index at 32,190.07 basis points. 233 million shares were traded valued at 3.363 billion naira, while market capitalization stood at over 12 trillion naira. The Dow Jones Industrial Average notched its longest weekly win streak in about 2 years as stocks saw on trade optimism. This was the close of last Friday. Bosede Abel gives us an update of global stocks.
Monday, 18 February 2019 saw African stocks open mixed in the early hours of trade. Ghana's GSE Composite Index, South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Namibia Overall Index opened positive, while Tunisia's Tunidex and Nairobi All Share started low. Trade in Asia saw major stock markets in the region advance, with trade talks between the United States and China set to continue in Washington, D.C. this week after high-level meetings in Beijing concluded last week. The Shanghai Composite Index jumped around 2.68%, Hang Seng Index about 1.6%, and the Nikkei also topped 1.82%. European stocks were mixed in the early trade as market participants continued to monitor trade talks between the world's two largest economies. In the United States, stocks surged on Friday amid increasing hopes for the United States and China trade deal as equities posted another solid weekly gain. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped 443.86 points to 25,883.25. The S&P 500 gained 1.1% to close at 2,775.60, and the Nasdaq Composite Index also advanced 0.61% to end the day at 7,472.41.
And on that note, we conclude this edition of Business Express. Be informed that all previous episodes can be found on our YouTube, and our handle is NTA News Now. Have a fruitful week ahead and join us again next time on Wednesday. I am Muplang Dakok.